Humans on the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I really want to talk about something that I think is such a cool idea, such a cool thing that I think has some real validity, and I just think has like a little in-depth discussion to have about it. And that is Luna. That is a Luna-based deck that's, you could call it an ancient fairy-based deck, whatever you want to classify it as. It's a really cool idea, and I think it could be right around the corner. We have no official hint on it, but I think this support makes a lot of sense for like multiple different reasons. I think one of the biggest things is it could end up as multiple different products. It could end up in the light legendary duelist because Ancient Fairy Dragon is a light and it could just be all light based. Plus Luna uses mainly like fairies and like sprites and spirits kind of thing, which can all be light if Konami wants to make them that way. So she can end up in the new light legendary duelist. She could get her own structure deck potentially. Ancient Fairy Dragon is definitely a big enough name out there, and like Signer Dragon. We just saw last year that Jack Atlas got a structure deck. Again, another Signer character, 5Ds. That's the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause on it. I don't know if Konami would want to do two back-to-back like Signer Dragon 5Ds structure decks like 2 years in a row. But I think that's still a product that like does make sense. This would totally fit the mold for that. And I think the last thing would be this could easily, I don't really think like anime stuff, because I don't think there's too many like anime cards that haven't been printed yet that like Luna used that were like actually worth it. But I do think she could absolutely be the cover character for a new core set. That would be down the line, obviously, because we just got Infinite Forbidden revealed, so we haven't even like gotten into the next one. But it could totally be, right? A new form of Ancient Fairy Dragon on the cover, looks badass. Again, Signer Dragon, that totally makes a ton of sense. And what I really think is the coolest thing is that they could do the same thing that they just did with the Yugi support from Legacy of Destruction. Like, straight up same mold, basically, with a couple of key differences. So what they did with the new Yugi support was they took old classic Yugi monsters, Yugi's Yu-Gi-Oh monsters and cards that he used in the final duel against the Pharaoh in the entire main, original series, and they turned it into an actual cohesive archetype. These were normally cards that had nothing to do with each other. They had no actual synergy, but he found a way. Now there's a Summon Skull, there's a Gadget card, there's a Dark Magician card, and they all are built into this one cohesive archetype. And I think they could do the same thing for Luna, and I think they could do this going forward with multiple characters that, because maybe it was early enough in the series, or the character never got quite a big enough spotlight to have like a fully super thematic like archetype, like heroes and stuff like that, and just do the same thing. And basically give them all retrains of some of their most popular monsters and build them into like a new theme and actually give them synergy as just the Luna deck, right? Or you could call it an Ancient Fairy Dragon archetype if you want, because that is still her like main boss monster. They would need like a shared name, at least in the text, or name to kind of like make it make sense, to make it function, right? To have searchability and all that stuff in the deck. But that's more of the execution. As far as like thematically speaking, they could just make it all work together and just make it all Luna cards. So what I want to do today is I want to go through Luna's most popular cards that she used. There's probably more. Obviously I wasn't able to just watch every episode that Luna dueled in, but I have most of the main ones that she ever used, and we're going to talk about those. And then there's some weird ones that are like old classic monsters that she just had in her deck. I don't know if they would retrain those, but we'll throw them in there. The ones that at least are confirmed that I could find with reasonably quick, research to find out. Obviously, first is Ancient Fairy Dragon. This would probably be still a central piece of the archetype. This would probably end up being a field spell based deck, I would guess, just because your main card and probably the best card in your deck is a field spell searcher. But it's still a really good card. I think it has some really good things. There's obviously still stuff like Revolution Synchron, which just came out, and to help summon this card really easily, and then still get into something like a Crystal Wing, right? And then still get extra interruption out of that. That's pretty cool. And then they can make a bigger form of this, right? Maybe like Power Tool. We saw Power Tool Braver get support with the Morphtronic stuff. What if they just made a bigger form of Ancient Fairy Dragon? Level Synchro 9, Synchro 10, whatever they want to do there, and give it, other things, but still thematically make a little bit of sense with Ancient Fairy Dragon. And maybe even a small form, maybe like a synchro climbing tool that helps you get to Ancient Fairy Dragon. Maybe the smaller one gets you a field spell, and then so that it guarantees you a field spell, and then Ancient Fairy comes out and you have a field spell now to pop and get another one, right? Maybe there could be something there, but I think that'd be cool. Moving on, you have Kuriman. This is Luna's Karibo, basically. Same thing. Cute little monster. She could see it. She can see its spirit, and it like is following her around. It's always like on her shoulder kind of thing. Not always, but a good enough amount of the time. Same vibe. This to me would definitely be probably in there. If this got a retrain, it could be a consistency card, a starter card, something like that. Something pretty crucial to the engine for sure. Yeah, I mean it's a relevant enough character that it has like a full-on like character sheet on Yu-Gi-Oh fandom. Sunlight Unicorn. This is another one that I saw multiple times, and this seems to be one of the very unique cards that like only Luna uses. Basically, cool card. I like the design of it. It looks like a shiny Rapidash, obviously. Card's not very good, but again, you know, make a new form of this that actually has synergy with the others, and it feels like it fits the vibe of her whole archetype. Cool. I'm with it. Next up, you have Regulus. This guy I actually never really thought that much of for Luna's deck until like they had like the one season where like they end up going into like the spirit realm, and then she like meets him, and I think he talks to her. She literally rides him to like a certain area in the spirit realm, and they go all over the place. So he's probably another one that would definitely get a boost here, get a revamped version here. Again, big enough to have his own character sheet. Cool enough there. And then as far as tuners go, because keep in mind this is still a tuner, this is still a synchro strategy. It would have to be, just because Ancient Fairy Dragon's your main guy. She only really used a couple tuners. One is Sun Pixie here. Nothing too crazy there, just gains you life points. It's like it has that fairy aspect, right? Pixie fairy kind of vibe to it, just like her whole archetype does. Nettles, she also has a couple plant things in her archetype, so Nettles kind of can join the mold there, which is cool. And then Spore is another one, so makes sense. You know, maybe they do a revamped version of Pixie because she more so like fits the straight vibe that her archetype has. But again, I don't know if that's too like only unto her that like that they would make a full-on version of that. I don't know. Bird of Rose is another cool one. Don't remember ever seeing anybody else use it, so I thought that was like kind of interesting that she's like the only one I saw that maybe would have used this. Maybe like Akiza would have used this at some point, but I don't know. Cool card though. Armor White Bear. This one's so weird. Doesn't fit like any of the rest of her archetype at all, but whatever. Also, this is a semi-recently printed card, so I don't think they'd like revamp this one so soon. And then a couple of old ones, right? Dream Sprite, Fairy King Truesdale, Spirit of the Breeze, Fairy Archer, all just like old classic fairy monsters. Nothing too crazy, right? Like I guess they could revamp some of these, but again, we already went through like 4 or 5 monsters that are way more thematically relevant to Luna, so I think that makes more sense. There's a couple traps that have never been printed too. Ancient Sunshine, this one just burns your opponent for damage, and then Twinkle Walls, just like a battle trap. But again, you know, whoa. That's crazy. I mean, you can only activate this when your opponent declares an attack, but the last text here says your opponent cannot activate spell and trap cards until the end phase. That'd be insane. But, and then Fairy Wind. She also used Fairy Wind. Low key, though, Fairy Wind, not a terrible card, even for modern day standards. This card could eventually see itself come back in as, like, relevant again at some point, but whatever. Same idea, though, Fairy. Fairy in the name. Very, like, fairy-based, obviously. Ancient Fairy Dragon. But a lot of cool stuff. I think there's definitely potential here. You know, it wouldn't take much. 3 or 4 revamped main deck monsters, maybe 1 or 2 new extra deck synchros. So like you did one Kuriban, Sunlight Unicorn, Regulus, and maybe a tuner. Maybe it's Sunny Pixie, something like that. 3 or 4 main deck monsters. Go ahead and give them maybe, like I said, maybe a Synchro Climby starter kind of lower level Ancient Fairy Dragon synchro that helps you climb into Ancient Fairy Dragon and set it up, as well as maybe like an even bigger one that you actually want to end on as like an end board piece. There's definitely some huge potential there. Throw in some spells and traps, give it, you know, a shared theme, some shared synergy where they can search each other and actually have a full-on strategy you're aiming to get to. Give the archetype its own field spell, maybe give it 2 or 3, so that way, kind of like FA kind of situation, this deck can like rotate into its own field spells, and they're all worth it, hopefully. That would honestly be so cool. So Really think there's potential here, whether it's in the next year, whether it's the next 3 years. I really think this one makes a ton of sense. It's just something that never really got its time in the limelight as like a full-on archetype, whereas Red Dragon Archfiend's a full-on archetype now. Like the Yusei deck, like the Junk deck is just like a full-on deck, right? Like all of them have their own, these Synchrons, I guess is what you'd call his, but all of them are like their own archetype now, even though they started out as like kind of separate boss monsters and not really a cohesive archetype. So I think this one fits that mold perfectly. And plus Ancient Fairy Dragon coming off the ban list in both the TCG and the OCG pretty recently. Like, it all makes so much sense. We have nothing confirming this yet. I just think this makes so much sense. I think it would behoove Konami to not do this, and hopefully this ends up coming to fruition sooner than later. But I've rambled long enough at you. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Are there any other cards? Like, this was just from like the limited research I could find. I could find like limited lists on like Yugipedia and Fandom and stuff. I wonder if there even are like more concrete, like very defined lists of like every card she used, and if there was anything else that was like made a lot of sense. Because like, weirdly enough, as like for her main boss monster being a card that like gets you field spells, there were I didn't find any field spells listed, which just seems really strange. But hey, let me know if there's anything there. So let me know if there's any other cards that you think would make sense, that would be perfect like thematically to reprint for her and actually make it part of like an official archetype for Luna. That would be so cool. Yeah, these cards are sweet. I'd definitely be interested if these cards came out and they actually like kind of did everything I'm talking about here. But I'm out of here today. Sorry, I'm rambling more. I'm out of here for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel for more stuff from me down the line. And let me know what other topics you want me to discover or discuss on the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.